live in living color.
I'm waiting for Facebook to set it up officially.
It does say live on Facebook up there.
Let's see if I click on this. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Speakman. I'm a writer, a webmaster, a bald man, a husband, a father, and these are my most favorite things to do out of almost all of those, except for maybe play with my kids, because today I get to see two people that I definitely call friends. And they also happen to write books from time to time. So welcome, Terry Brooks. Welcome, Brent Weeks.
Welcome yourself, Sean, and thanks for agreeing to host this in brief time.
Yeah, so I'll just say a couple opening words here. I'm not going to go into details about bios and stuff because that's what the internet's for, but I will just say that I've read both of your work from both of you. You're both at the top of your game, and so this should make for a very good conversation because we're talking about morality and faith in not only in an author's life, but also how an author spins that into their own worlds and their characters, and if that's important or not. And so I'm just going to kind of throw this at Terry because I know Terry's been wanting to have this conversation for a long time. True. And I know that he's going to want to start with Brent. And all I will say is that if you guys have any questions for these two writers, please feel free to use the comment field and I will save them, and we'll try to get them answered sometime during this hour. So I'll give it away to Terry.
I'm always tempted to ask if you're here by mistake, what are you doing here? If you don't know who we are, then, stick around. You'll know by the end of this and you'll have made up your minds. Brent, you and I have known each other since the late 10s of 2020. Mm-hmm. And we have been friends for that entire time. I still remember reading Way of Shadows, a book I greatly admire still. My memory dims as time goes on, though, so I'm going to have to reread it now that we're having this conversation to remind myself about the specifics. But I have this trouble with a lot of books, unfortunately. But I'm happy you're here. Brent, if you don't know this, has been very prolific, a trait I admire. He's done at least a book a year for that time period, and more or less, right? We fudge on these things, don't we? And his talents and skills have not diminished, unlike mine. And I could also say that Brent and I share, and even Sean doesn't know this, we share a palindrome. Now, for those of you who don't know what a palindrome is, it's a word or a set of numbers that start and end with the same letter, and they just go forward and then backward again, right? So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. What we share is this. Brent was born in 1977. What was at that point? Anyway, 1977, he is 44 years old. I, on the other hand, now get your mathematics skills working, was born in 1944 and am how old? That's right, 77. So together we form 44, 77, 77, 44. Now, I don't know what we can do with that, but it seems like we ought to be at least blood brothers of some kind, or perhaps palindrome brothers, and it should lead to something wonderful somewhere down the line. But that's not what we're here today to talk about. Brent, you've been sheltering in space now for untold months, like the rest of us. Have you been working?
I mean, I've been sheltering in space, in place, pretty much since I started this job. Isn't that kind of what they do?
It is what we do.
They put you in a hobbit hole. They kick some food under the grate and tell you don't get any more until you hand out the next chapter. I mean, I thought that's what everybody did, but but maybe not as much. I have been writing. I've been doing something a little different this time. As you know, the deadlines can get really, really stressful. Especially as some of us, you gave me, I think, Terry, the best writing advice I've ever been given. And unfortunately, I didn't accept that writing advice, but I still admire it. It's still totally true. You were totally right. And that what advice was: shorter books, Brent, shorter books.
Say that. I'm always saying that.
So I got to a place where my books were getting longer and longer and longer. So I was thinking, like, the books were almost twice as long, but the deadlines were staying the same length. And despite being a professional that I am and working all the time, that got pretty harrowing. So I've sort of, with the next book, it's set in the Night Angel world, and that's kind of all I'm telling people. I'm not telling people when it's coming out. But I'm working on it. So I've sort of gone with the somehow my agent, the amazing Don Moss, was able to talk with my publishing company, which has been great to me, Orbit, and say, can we not have a super firm deadline this time and not announce things? And Brent, he'll be working, and I have been. So I'm working on the next book. It's going really well. Actually, I'm in the kind of in the home stretch of the first draft, but I'm going to spend a lot of time on the second draft. So I'm not announcing anything yet. But I did want to note, before I ask about your projects, which I think you are embarrassingly far ahead of me. I wanted to note that I think you have been writing best-selling novels since 1977. Is that true? I think you've been writing best-selling novels since the year I was born.
Yeah, mostly. It's true, actually. Not to, cause you fear and loathing or anything like that. I set out very much the way that Sean is talking about, to find an audience, and I had no clue how to do this. I loved writing. I had been writing steadily since I was 10 years old, with some little success, but really I was floundering about, trying this, trying that, kind of clueless. And when I finally got something published, I was so clueless still that I did not appreciate any of the things that happened to me. And I look back on all that now, and I think, yeah, that's right. Those were the years when I thought everybody got on the New York Times bestseller list, and that was no big deal. But it was pretty good to get up there at #2. That was kind of good. And when I thought, oh look, I've got movie rights already on this. That probably happens quite a bit, though, and nothing will ever happen with that. So I shouldn't pay any attention to this. And meanwhile, my editor was beating me up anyway with his insistence that I show him the second book, which he ultimately turned down, and be kinder to me than he had been all along, although he never was. But all in all, it was a real learning period. And I have to say, looking back on it now, I wish I had known then what I know now about this whole process. And I'm sure you feel the same way about your own career. So where was I going to take this, Sean? Oh, never mind. I know where I was going to take it. I was going to say, my project right now is, I ended the Shatner series, as most of my readers know, I hope, last year, to little acclaim, because we're all locked away, and there was no real celebration, no final world tour, none of that stuff. And I finished it, and frankly, I put it aside, the whole 30 books rather, and all those 40 years, and I said, I'm going to do something else. And so that's when I sat down and wrote a book called Child of Light. And Child of Light, the title of which wasn't even the title in the beginning, but I just knew I wanted somebody in a prison. I wanted to break out of the prison. I wanted the prison to be run by goblins. And whatever happened, once this person got out, they had no idea what to do because they had no memory of who they were.
Okay, nice.
And that was the premise. And I wrote that book in 6 months. And I have to tell you, it was one of those projects where you were so in love with what you were doing, you just couldn't wait to get back to it. And I that's much faster than I usually do anything, but I was just caught up in it. So after that was done, then I just sat down, immediately started writing the second one. And I told the publisher, though, don't expect another 40 years of Terry Brooks, because by that time, even if I'm alive at whatever it would be, 117 or something, I would also be totally in denial about who I am or what I was doing or have a clue about the world at large. So it would not be a good thing to plan anything past 5 years and just see what happens. So that's where I am at this point.
So in this, they're the goblins who have you in prison, and you're going to be breaking out
Yes.
and writing.
Despite it, yeah, the goblins of my own fears and my own concerns about what's going on. The thing I really want to talk to you about a little bit today, and I'd like to start off doing it because I'm not sure how long or how deep we're going to get into it. Is I wanted to talk to you about about a similarity we share in our approach to writing. That we both come from backgrounds where a moral code was part and parcel of our lives the whole time that we were growing up. And I was a church boy early on, and went to Sunday school, and then I went to church, and then it was so bad that I actually gave sermons in the church 2 or 3 times during my life. Sean's getting up and leaving the room now. And even stranger, for 2 years, I ran the educational department of the church. Now, it's amazing that lightning hasn't struck me dead by this point, given the fact that I have not exactly been exemplary as a member of any religion, let alone the Christian religion. So I have to say that what matters here, and what I wanted to ask you about, was that even now, after all those years, what I learned about a moral code of conduct and about the difference between acting in a proper way and a wrong way have stuck with me. And that it's this thing I still write about, because it seems to me this is maybe the single biggest question that the world faces, is how to behave in a way that would be deemed morally correct. Not disparaging others, not killing other people, not doing all the bad things that we know are wrong. We know it. Not letting our lives be ruled by anger, by any of the various things that are we know to be wrong and bad, but to conduct ourselves in some way that matters. And I think that is one of the biggest choices any of us as a person in this world face. So I would like to hear your thoughts about, a little bit about this, and about, does it play a part in your work?
Sure. I think you're sort of talking about the writer's name is slipping my mind right now. The Sound, the Fury, the Southern writer.
Faulkner, right?
Faulkner, right?
Right.
Talking about the human heart in conflict with itself, right? And that's what all literature is built on, is human heart in conflict with itself. I think in my work, I definitely have characters who know what's right, and they're not confused about it. It doesn't mean they choose it. Like they frequently do not choose it. Like they go, you know what? I'm not willing to be afraid anymore, so I'm gonna do this thing, and heck with the consequences, kind of thing. So my own background, just briefly, I also was raised in the church, and early in high school, I left that and became agnostic, shading over to atheist, functionally atheist, but I was like, you can't really prove a negative, so et cetera, et cetera. And then spent a few years like trying to figure out, I think Socrates asked it, how should we then live? Like, what do you do? How do you act in this world? And what's the right way to treat other people? So in my work, I like to dive into that stuff. I like to have a diversity of characters in their beliefs, of people who maybe are strongly religious, but naive and even bigoted. People who are kind but not at all religious, don't even think about that sort of thing, but obviously have a moral code. People who are pagan, and like I see that as another source of conflict in the world. It's like there are people who look at things and see very different things when they look at the same actions. You know, like in this world, there are people who think that an honor killing is a good thing to do. Like, well, how the heck do you get there? You know, like there are people who think this murder is okay because that person is from this other group. I'm doing the right thing by doing this. And so when I think about characters' underpinnings and what they believe about the world, what they believe about the afterlife or lack thereof, I find a sort of a rich wellspring to tap for making characters who feel real, and even villains who feel real, or characters who are heroic or anti-heroic but have some blind spots. I have a character in the Lightbringer series he's got slaves. He owns slaves, and he's otherwise in a lot of ways, not always, in a lot of ways he's a really good guy, and he doesn't even think about it. You know, for thousands of pages he just doesn't think about it. And I've had readers who said they stopped reading my books because they were so offended by that. Like readers who went right past cannibalism, they were fine with that. But like that I had slavery in the books and didn't immediately point out that was awful and wrong, because the character didn't think it was awful. Like he just didn't see it. I'm in the character's head, or, you know, tight third person point of view. Like if he doesn't think about it, if it doesn't come up in conversation, it's not coming up. And so it doesn't, you know, eventually it comes up. But you know, I find that stuff just fascinating. As I read history, I see a lot of moral blind spots in people in the past, and I'm sure we have those today. So
I think that the concept of absolutes gives me a lot of trouble. And the problem with that is that an absolute is a moving target. And it's not like there's hardly anything that's an absolute, except you're going to be born, you're going to die. We know that. But beyond that, when we talk about slavery, yes, slavery was dead wrong at the time that it happened, you know, and it still is, and it's still going on. It's not like it ended here in the United States and that solved all the problems of the world. Slavery is true all over the world, and enslavement of conquered peoples has always been a part of our history. To suddenly decide that somebody is undeserving of recognition, especially our forefathers, because they held slaves, to me is very troubling. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, that was a different time. How can we judge what happened 200 years ago in terms of whether these were worthy people? Right. Just as we will be judged 200 years from now for something that we are doing. I think you live in the times you live in. And so you should examine these things, and you can make a judgment call if you want, but it's much more interesting to call people's attention, your readers' attention, to a particular subject matter of where there is this conflict, and let them decide for themselves without telling them what to do, because then you become didactic, and you shouldn't do that.
Right.
And I know it is yours too. So.
Yeah, I find that, like I said, it's fertile ground to explore, and asking people to, like, the interesting thing to me is I will have characters do stuff that is like obviously morally wrong, but like you're inside that person's head, and readers won't condemn that person for doing something that's like, are you kidding me? Just because the guy's a good guy, or because you're with him, like you're willing to excuse that. So I had a character sort of descend into evil, and he justifies it to himself at every point. Starts as a pretty good guy. This was in the Night Angel books. Starts as a really good guy, and then he justifies his way through all these layers of all this awful stuff he's doing because he's dealing with worse people. And I really wanted it to be an experience for the readers of like, when do you give up on this guy? Because he's got good reasons that he says to himself why he does all of these things. And it's like, okay, look back and see what he did. Like, do you feel uncomfortable that you were okay with that just because he's a nice guy? Like I want you to be uncomfortable why did you hold on that long?
Right.
It's like, oh boy, well, okay, these murders, that was fine. They were bad anyway. Oh, the kids were going to cause problems too. It's like, really? You just thought a massacre was okay?
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
So I like to I like to, and I don't do this constantly or anything. It's not like my one trick pony here, but it is a fun thing for me to try to see like to turn it around on readers. I remember this story of like Mark Twain, cracking some sort of like I'm probably remembering this wrong, but he was like cracking some sort of racist joke or something, and then everybody laughed. He did these speaking tours, and then he's like, "Why did you laugh at that?" to the audience, and the whole audience had to go like,
"Because it's Mark Twain."
Crap, because he just flipped it around on them. It's like, "Oh, we were laughing because actually that's not funny." And so I think sometimes art can do that. It can hold up a mirror and it lull you into a little bit of sense of like, I'm just being entertained, and then it's like, oh wait, who am I? And I hope I can do that every once in a while.
I think that your story about Mark Twain points up the fact that Huckleberry Finn is still banned in many districts of this country.
Right.
It's so stupid. I can't even believe it. But at any rate, I have a lot of trouble with banned books anyhow at any level. I really do. But in any case, I was going to say that I wrote about Gran Elmsford for, I don't know, 6 books or something like that. And it was always the same thing. It was the same question for her all the way through. Can she ever be redeemed for the transgression she's committed? And I did not honestly know the answer when I started out. And because she had, what was the story here? She got kidnapped as a child, raised up by the devil himself, turned to the dark side, became an assassin. This is very Star Warsian, oddly enough. And then she discovered, what had been done to her, and she righted herself, and she becomes the leader of the Druid Order. And she's a good person, and she's trying hard to make this all work. But people don't forgive her. They don't forgive her because, she's done some awful things. And for them, she will always be bad. So then it goes on from there, and she goes through one struggle after another. And in the end, was she ever forgiven? Well, readers would have to decide for themselves if she ever found that forgiveness. But I think this is very true about what we see about the world, and particularly about the people we hold up as our heroes or the people we admire in any profession. If they do something wrong, this immediately diminishes them in their eyes of just about everybody. And it doesn't matter how many good things they've done. They've done this one bad thing or even a couple of bad things. Can they find forgiveness? Well, most religions say, yes, you can. You can be forgiven. The gods will forgive you for these things if you pay, after you've paid a price, of course. But the price is right there, staring us in the face. And I think we need, we need to be a kinder, gentler population in large anyway. That we don't do enough of this. That we're too quick to condemn. We're too quick to write people off. We're too quick to declare them either black or white. All the things that we've seen happen around us, and that people need to know about this, and that this is important about what we write as fantasy writers, because our first set of marching orders, at least in my opinion, you can tell me what you think, is that we write to mirror the world we live in. I mean, not in the sense that it's the exact same world, but what we know about people's behavior and about the way in which they interact, we should be addressing the problems that we see there.
Right. So I certainly think I think in some ways, if you're trying to tell the truth in your art at all, you almost can't help but do that. It's you are going to mirror the things, even just if it's like you could try not to, but if you're writing about things that bother you, and then you are going to be mirroring stuff that's going on in your world. So I love what you said about not knowing if she'd find redemption. It's like that's how you're writing art, and is like you're like, I need to explore this. This bothers me. And it's like, okay, can a person, I think our culture is really struggling right now with figuring out that whole forgiveness piece, or like, can somebody be redeemed? It's like, oh, okay, you have the whole celebrity says something, then some PR dude, packages up a thing, and then they go and they talk to whatever community leader, they say they've learned, and then they want to come back and they just want all their stuff back. And it's like, we have no way of knowing if that's like, what was there really some repentance there before they got the redemption, or did they just do the thing that their agent said, okay, buddy, we've got a track here, crisis management 103, we know what to do with you. And so I think a lot of people are tired of that, and so they totally distrust everybody who's screwed up, and they think, no, the hurt from what you did remains. You used a slur, you did a this thing, or you cheated on your spouse, or whatever. You did this awful thing, the hurt from that remains. And so I'm not going to forgive you that until the hurt is gone, which is never. Right. And so it's like, man, I feel like that there was a thing culturally that we had, even when that was part of the Christian ethic, the part of the Christian ethos, even if people weren't Christian, of like, okay, if you screw up and then you repent, then you get to be redeemed and you get to come back. You get to come back publicly. And I think as we get farther away, like sometimes that was cheap and sometimes it was abused, and it's, you see people coming back who are still just the same person. But losing that is also kind of dangerous. It's like, oh, you did that one thing when you were 15 years old, you said that thing, you're toast. Never show your face ever again. It's like, oh, I don't want to live in that world. That world's scary because, I don't think I've done anything that would get me dragged. I'm trying not to live that way. But like, boy, I want to think that if I screwed up, there would be a path back for me, right? And same for everybody else. So it's a little. Maybe it's just that little narrow sliver of world that we see on social media, which tends to amplify the angriest voices. And maybe most people aren't that way, but it seems a little scarier out there.
Well, I am drawn to books that address these things on any level, any genre, any writer, young adult, doesn't make any difference. Those kinds of things make me question myself. They make me question what I see around me. They make me question my work, which I think is not only good, but essential for a writer. And you should always be re-examining how you're approaching what you're doing, because if all you're doing is writing so you can tell a story, and you don't have any underpinnings in the ethos of the story, then I think you're shortchanging yourself. And that you should always have a surface level of storytelling and a subtext beneath that. That you're writing this story that you could see, but it wants to make you consider the larger questions that are being addressed here. It sounds hard, but it's actually not hard at all, because most of what we do with our lives has both a text and a subtext. And as we live our lives, we're always looking. Every time we have one of these elections, I want to burrow into the ground and not come up for 6 months, or now a year, or however long it's going to be. But they always point out the same things. I'm seeing this, and this appears to be happening, but wait, underneath, I know there's all this going on too, and so it makes you question what's happening in the world around you. Every time I read about somebody having a great amount of success, I'm always fascinated about what that actually means. How did this person get there? When one of our preeminent, successful people gets divorced unexpectedly, and there is a question about, how could this have happened under the circumstances when on the surface everything appears to be so great? You think, what is it that I don't know? Or is it just as simple as it seems, that they just got tired of each other? Just like movie stars seem to get tired of each other about 5 minutes into any relationship, for crying out loud. And decide, well, it's been grand, but I got to move on. Got to do what I was brought here to do, which is spread my charm. And I know there's a lot of things at work here. There's issues of how stable the people are emotionally, and there are questions of what's their priorities are in life, and everybody knows what to say. The only thing that matters to me are the kids. I'm here to tell you that ain't true. Number one. But we sort of know these are the subtexts, because we've seen so much of the management of the people in these situations. They know what to say in the situations where it's very clear. This is my fault. I'm not blaming anybody. I don't know. The devil made me do it. But I've met the devil and I've overcome him. Thus I will now move on and be a good man from now on. I just want to throw up my hands and say, that's been used before about 400 times this past year. So forget that. But still, it fascinates us all in the finite amount of time that we have to try to learn as much as we can about how people are, complex as they are. It's difficult. And writing about it to me is very good. As just going back here to our child of light for a moment, part of what Oris is facing, excuse me, she's not fishing. What she's facing is the fact that she has no memory of her past. So she has a clean slate. On the other hand, maybe she doesn't have a clean slate once people find out who she is. Maybe she is on the surface of things, which she appears to be, but what if she isn't? What if she's in fact something entirely different? And isn't this the kind of thing that we ask every first time we meet anybody? Right. Okay, I'm seeing what I'm seeing here, but there's more, of course. I wonder what there is. Is there something else, Does this person have a dark side I'm not seeing? Especially if there are flashes of it here and there, that kind of thing. I think we want to take people as how we see them on the surface. We want to take them that way, which is mostly a good thing, although now and then we're off base, but mostly we want to accept them. We want to think people are, at least I do. I want to think that people are good. I want to think people are kind. I want to think the best about them right off the bat. So it's always hard for me to discover that maybe I've been mistaken about that. Maybe they're not so nice, or I don't know, whatever. But I think we're better off approaching it that way than approaching it with a hands off, don't get too close to me until I get to know better about you, Buster. Then that suggests that we have something in our own past that maybe causes us to feel that way. And it's a harder way to live our lives also.
So in that vein, Terry, you're talking about that. In that vein, when you sit down and you're going to start writing a book, you just finished a book, so you're going to be starting another book here soon, I'm sure. When you start a book, do you know that moral ambiguity that a character might have early on, or does that happen during the writing? And the same for you, Brent. Actually, I'll start with Brent here, because your first main character is an assassin, right? So how do you reconcile that? Did you know that before you started writing? Did it develop as you were writing? Like when you come to those moments where somebody's being really, really dark and they're a good character, like, did you know that beforehand? So I guess you guys can talk about the process of writing and how you go about doing that.
So with that, with my first 3 novels, I'd had the very good fortune, which didn't feel like it, of having written another novel first, and that was unpublishable, right? So I wrote a book that was set in the Night Angel world, but that happened 20 years later. And so what I realized the bones on this thing are broken. Like I can't fix this, actually. I ended up taking like the most interesting character out of that and being like, how about I tell his story? So like I knew where he was kind of going to end up 20 years later. And then it was a matter of me asking this question. I was sort of like, how can a character how can a character who's not a sociopath end up killing people for a living? Like what? How is it possible that somebody who's not awful who basically has their moral compass intact, basically end up in a job that is this awful, because it's just not going to happen anywhere. So I was like, okay, so he's a kid, he's in a gang, there's no protection for him, he's in a horribly corrupt city, there's no legal protections, like nobody is going to do the right thing for this kid, so the only way for him to get out is to do X, Y, and Z. And then he doesn't, he even then he knows he shouldn't do this, but then things get worse for him and things get worse for him, so then he's forced sort of toward these things. It's like, okay, do I want to be a victim? No, I'm going to do this. So rather than suffer evil, I'll do evil, right? And so he like makes these very understandable choices. And so I kind of knew where he was going to go, but I did want to, I wanted to confront those things along the way and have it be hard for him. Of like, he kind of knows what he's doing. He kind of has chances to turn around and be a more reasonable human being rather than doing the awful stuff that he ends up partaking in. And he chooses not to because he's too scared of that or whatever. So I wanted to engage with that, and that's how I did it in my first books. I'll hand it over to you, Terry.
Well, I think that's true for me as it is for you about the first books. I was much more directed with my organizational process, even though there was no particular reason for it because I was unpublished and no expectations. But it's felt more comfortable to have that outline in place that told me sort of the progress and told, not extensive, but it told me sort of the progress and what it was I was addressing. And always for me though, I know the end. I always know the end when I start and before I start writing. This is how it will end. And I'm not saying it's always worked out that way, but at least I have before I start. And I think that because writing is a process of discovery, that until you've written it, you don't actually know everything anyway. So you start out by saying, well, here are the things, for me anyway, I start out saying, here are the things I want to address in the subtext of this story. Here are the questions I want to ask and the hoops I want my character to jump through. But I don't always know how that's going to unfold and how it's going to resolve itself by the time that we get to the end. I only know the tone I want by the time I get there. I'm trying to think about this. It was, I think it was Ishiguro that I was listening to on the radio, Kazuo Ishiguro, and Clara and the Sun, who writes science fiction of a sort. And he was saying he always has a sense of what the story should be at the end. And the writer he was talking to said, I never know where I'm going. I just start writing and it sort of reveals itself. And then of course, Ishiguro pointed out, well, you can see right here are two entirely different approaches who are both successful in their writing, and there is more than one way to skin that cat. Now, tell me about how you do go about this these days.
It's become more like your approach. Actually, it's become, okay, I know the things I want to wrestle with. Okay, we're going to talk about institutional evil and in good institutions and how that happens. Does that, if an institution has done a lot of bad things, does that negate all the good they've done? Should good people continue to serve in a bad institution? I mean, that's just sort of one track of things I wanted to talk about in Lightbringer. And then I kind of have a sense of, okay, I think we're going to go here. Like I have certain parts of the ending sketched out pretty well. And then there's other things where I'm like, okay, this could go a couple different ways. And I'm going to have to see what feels best by the time I get there. But yeah, it's like certainly with longer works, there's no way I could sketch out everything. So I sort of pick out mountain peaks kind of in the distance. And then it's like, okay, drive toward that, because that's where, and find the most interesting way to get there. And then, okay, we took a really good route over here, but we still got to get there. So we can't go too far sideways, right? But I didn't know exactly how some things were going to go. I kind of knew what we were going to address. Early on, I had some really big things like artistic challenges I wanted to try. Like, okay, if there's a pilgrimage and you climb this mountain, and at the top of the mountain is Orholam, the Lord of Light. what happens when you do that? Who's there? Is anybody there? What does that mean about everything? If there's somebody there, how do you write that dialogue, right? So I was like, that sounds hard. That's terrifying. Okay, well, it'll be a couple years till I get there.
Sometimes the challenges are what are the most fun, though.
Yes.
You know, that setting yourself up. I like to, sometimes I hate to admit this, but sometimes I write myself into a corner just to see if I can get out of it. And not always. And sometimes I walk myself right back a chapter or two and start again. But a lot of times I can, you know, once I'm focused in that place, I can figure out how it should happen or what should happen, whatever. Now, we both write in series to some extent. I write almost entirely in series. Which means that I get this question all the time, as I'm sure you must, is how much of what you write in the 3-book set do you know when you start out? And of course, because I'm a simple person with a fairly simple life, and because I have a small amount of brain power, I say, are you nuts? I don't know where I'm going when I start out about the whole 3-book set. I know maybe the first 2 chapters of the first book and an ending I'd like to get to, and then I have to figure out, you know, where it's going from there. But it's more like you break up a story and you just take it to a certain point, and then you pick it up again when you go on from there. But you can handle that in a lot of different ways too. It's just another twist to the whole idea of storytelling. Instead of one book, you make it multiple books or multiple stories or whatever. So this must happen once in a while for you too.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, like you say that, but I also think you're lying a little bit. Sorry, I just had to add some drama to this. It's like, yeah, you don't know where it's going, except you have this innate sense as a storyteller. It's like it's like you've got it. You've read so many books in your life. You've written so many books in your life at this point. It's like you kind of know how a story works. So it's not like I hand a kid a crayon and go, tell me a story. I mean, it's like you've got those blueprints in your head. It's like here's a hammer and you hand it to me versus handing it to a master carpenter. It's like one of us is going to make something that, like, even if he doesn't have a blueprint, he could go out there and put together a shed, no problem. Whereas I'd be, you know, hitting my finger for the next 2 weeks. So it's like a lot of that is internal, and like you might not know, but you know when it's going wrong. You're like, okay, I can tell that this chapter, it was interesting, but it's not heading me in the right direction. It's like, crap. I wanted the characters to do this. Their personalities were such that when I was writing them, they kind of veered over to the right. I'm making notes for myself of like, how can I get them back on track? And like that's an intuitive thing for some of us. I mean, some of us are more intuitive writers, and it's just like, yeah, that scene worked line by line. That scene was fantastic. Lots of, you know, the dialogue worked, the tension was good. I had the right amount of description peppered in there, and it's not taking me the right direction. You know, like that doesn't come from like looking at my outline. It just comes from, I've done this a few times, and crap, I write myself a note, not taking me the right direction, or fix. You know, you probably have more elaborate notes than that. It's just sometimes have.
Oh, my elaborate notes are big capital letters in ink, no, and double underline, so I won't mistake.
Right.
And at this point, I need to rethink what I'm doing. And I think you're right about the innate storytelling ability. We're writers because we're able to do that, and that's probably the single most important thing. Is that your storytelling sense, your book writing is all about your storytelling. For people like writing what we're writing, at least, and for most writers, really. So your storytelling sense has to keep you on the straight and narrow for the most part, and has to point you in the right directions. You have to be able to realize when you're not going there. If you're relying on your editor to save your ass, forget it. It's not going to happen every time. You know, they're going to say, you go back. Mine always said the same thing. He says, this is wrong. Go fix it. That was it. And I'd say, what are you talking about? It's great. He'd say, no, it's not. Go read it again and figure it out and then fix it. He says, I'm not fixing it. You fix it. And I'm not accepting this. So you do fix it. And I thought, God, what kind of world am I living in here? And then I think, remember being how much I wanted to be published, and I go spend whatever time it took to do it, right?
So I'll ask a question here from our community here. Some really good questions have come in. It's kind of in that innate sense that you guys have just been talking about. Sean Farian asks, how hard is it for you to get in the mindset of characters who are not good people? Like, you know, is that just an innate sense of how to make somebody, you know, how to bring them to life? Because both of you, as far as I know anyway, are very good people. So how do you get into the mindset of writing the bad?
I will say really quickly, because I'd like Sean. No, you're Sean. I would like Brent to address this more than I'm going to, but I will say that, first of all those characters live right in here and are part of me. The good and the bad, it's in there. You don't see the bad ones, I hope, very often, but those understandings and impulses are there. And you know, you learn, you're having a moral code and having a way to behave is the way you shut it all down. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The potential for it doesn't exist within you. So that's, and you don't see it every day anyway. So you don't, your education is ongoing. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a like for certain characters who are bad in very different ways than I am bad, because I try to have a diversity of flaws in my characters. Like sometimes it does take a little bit of work, but almost always it's an exaggeration of something that is inherent in my character. I read a thing, C.S. Lewis said that writing bad characters is easy because you just exaggerate your own flaws. But writing truly good characters is very hard, because imagining a character who is better than you, who has virtues you do not have, that is a thing very few writers can do. It's like you couldn't imagine somebody who's actually more humble than you are, or who's actually got virtues that you don't have even the smallest bit of. So I think he's kind of right. I think he's right about that, because usually you can find some vice that your character has that you just exaggerate that. Oh, having that kind of mastery over other people. Oh, having people look at me that way, that would be nice. Yeah, so it's like finding the center of that character, having it be different than other characters that you've done is the work that comes for me after having written for whatever 15 years I've been writing now, not all of them published, but like it's like, okay, is this character just a reskin of this character? Oh yeah, it kind of is. Like, let's make sure they're actually different and they're unique in their own personality and their own evil. So
when I need to be inspired, all I do is spend an hour or two on the news media, and I'm back there right away.
There you go. There you go.
That's funny. All right, let's get to some more questions here. Joseph Murboth. Sorry if I'm butchering your guys' names, by the way. Do you ever hope to change a reader's moral standards?
You're first.
Oh, well, I get to go first.
Oh, look at this.
I wouldn't think of it as me coming in and changing a reader. But I'd be quite happy to ask a reader questions and have them ask themselves questions, and find that challenging to find my books as an occasion for personal growth or for personal examination. Absolutely. I want my books to leave you as a marginally better person than you were when you started, or at least have that possibility. So that much, yes.
How about we just settle on, we're trying to draw their attention to certain things, or we're trying to educate in a very superficial way about certain behavior or certain choices, and hope that they take something away useful. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think Brent's right. We're not going to be going into this thing thinking, "My golly, I'm going to make these people better people if I have to beat them to death." Oh no, I didn't mean that.
Yeah, that kind of goes into another question by Ruben Eckert. Ruben asks, is it better to raise questions or raise them and give your own version of truthful answers? Just raising them, is that enough?
Terry, you get to go first this time.
I'm going to say yes. I don't think we're here to answer questions for people. That's not our job. And all that is one person's opinion anyway. And really, the only person's opinion that matters in this thing is the readers, is the individual reader. This is what I always say about books. When you take that book home with you, that's your book. It belongs to you. Whatever you find in it, whatever you read in it, whatever you see in it, how many characters you like or whatever, that's peculiar to you. And I'm not there to tell you how to pronounce the names, and I'm not there to tell you what to think, and I'm not there to tell you anything that you can't figure out for yourself. So make it your own book and take from it what you can, even if it's only the pleasure of, a day's reading or something. That's what I think.
I might differ a little. First, let's be clear. The first thing that literature should do is delight. So like these are, all of this is in the service of the fiction itself. So within that, I think characters should compellingly tell the truth as they see it, and I think putting that forth from multiple points of view is something I like to try to do. So I think if a reader said, I've never heard that viewpoint, or I've never even thought of it that way, that's fine. That's great, as long as I'm being honest with who the characters are, with what they're going through, and with what they believe, rather than just, oh, here's another sock puppet of this is what Brent really believes, talking to another one of this is what Brent believed 2 days ago, and what Brent should really believe, and you should really believe too, is over here. It's not that. It's like I have characters grappling with really big issues that bother them, that are part of their world. That's like, okay, do I side with this group over here that believes this, and here's why I should, or do I side with this group that thinks that institution is totally evil, and once you've done evil, you're toast, and we're done with you. Presenting both sides of that. I'm going to present both sides of that as well as I can, and I'm going to have my own opinions, but not every reader is going to come down with my opinions, and I find that I'm okay with that.
How important is it to have both sides of that coin represented within the story? The first book I ever wrote, which has not really seen the light of day, had two characters. One that was an extreme religious person, and his mentor, who was the good part of that religion. And so the reviews I got early on were, well, I hate this character because you're making fun of the church, right? But I literally had his mentor be decrying the things that this character was saying, and he's part of the church. So some of the reviews were like, I really hated this character, and the other ones were like, well, I hated this other character. So it was like both sets of the coins. How important is it for that to happen?
I mean, I think it's good drama. Like if everybody's agreeing with everybody else, it's like, well, why is it on the page? It's like, right. Well, as you know, Bob, the way we arrived here is, and then everybody gives everybody else the history of the world, and you're like everybody knows this in the room. They're not going to even talk about it. So it's like conflict, bringing out exposition is really great. Like, okay, and then this happened, and the gods killed each other, and no, they didn't. That one just went into hiding. Well, that's crap. He didn't go into hiding. He actually died. They have his bones. Like you can do world building and conflict and show the characters and show what the characters are all at once through that. So just even technically, I think it's better to have. I wouldn't necessarily call it both sides of a coin, but different sides of the dice, at least, right?
I agree.
Let's see here. What are some other questions here? I don't know if this has actually happened, except for maybe Terry. Terry's had this happen in one or two of his books when he wrote The Children of the Hawk. But Gina Yip asks, how do you approach writing something that may be based on real life religions, cultures, without writing it like it's a caricature?
I don't write about real life religion characters because I'm not well versed enough in real life religion principles beyond the obvious ones and the ones that we all know anyway, and the practices, and I don't think they're relevant. I'm not here to attack somebody's personal religion. As far as I'm concerned, any religion is good if it's doing good things. So for me, I would never write about that I'm more interested in the broader principle of religion versus non-religion, or, following the way a religion approaches life. I wrote about a religion that was a cult in one of my books, one of the Shannon books, as a matter of fact, in which there was a false prophet for sure at the lead, and he had larger motives and was being controlled by somebody else. But the idea was that people believed in this religion, and they believed blindly, and that's always, always dangerous, because when you believe blindly, you're opening yourself up to a terrible disappointment and a terrible chance of failure. And I think you have to examine yourself and your principles and the world at large very carefully before you embrace something like that. And then pick and choose the things that make sense in terms of what you know about the world. You have to think. That's my thought. What do you think, Brent? Or do you have?
I do think, and it's like the most honest answer I can come up with is not going to be very satisfying, because it's how do you write about religions that might have some things in common with real life religions and not have a big caricature? It's like very carefully.
Yeah, right. No, that's right.
It's just like, yeah, you have to look at it over and over and over and see if the characters are being honest themselves, and see, does this belong in, okay, this is what the character thinks, but does it belong in this book? Is this something that they're actually going to talk about right now? Okay, it's not, but put it out, etc. So it's certainly something that when I do it, I try to be really careful. And even if you do it really well, you're still probably going to tick off people, just like you said with yours, Sean. Like if things feel too real, then everybody drags in all of their own feelings about this real world thing. And one of the things that's beautiful about fantasy is it pulls us out of our world and all of our associations with this people group, this thing, these ideas. Like we have a bunch of prejudices already in our heads. And in the fantasy world, it's like, boom, let's go over here. Oh, we're looking at these things. We see all those things. We can see the same things, but see them with fresh eyes. And now we can think new thoughts about those things, where before we were entrenched. And some people aren't going to connect it back. Some people are. If people connect it too closely about things they're too have really deeply held feelings about, they can just be mad. And that is their right as readers to be mad. This cult looks like the group that I grew up with. I'm mad at you. Wow, that cult looks like your home church. Okay. I mean, like you could just have that sort of thing. Or, oh, these people, they believe in God and I don't, and I'm mad at you. Okay, fair enough. You know that for some people that just crosses the lines. And I'm like, on those things, if I've done my best, I'm okay if people get mad at me. I wish everybody would love everything I did, but I know that can happen.
I think that there's a tremendous amount of overlap in varying religions anyway. Many of them espouse the same principles of behavior and of belief and so forth. So it's not like you have to really pick and choose between one religion and another religion wholesale. And mostly we're not addressing, oh, well, is it okay for baptism? That's never come up in my life as a necessary thing to digress on. And there's a whole raft of things that you can let go with that. Honor killing, like you were talking about earlier. Oh yeah, that definitely is a subject that needs addressing. But you can do this in a way that does not identify any particular religion and let the reader make their own connections, because they're going to have some knowledge of this. They're going to know what it is. They're going to be able to say, oh, well, that takes place over there in this particular country. And I think that's really more about what we would be likely to do.
Yeah, do you guys have, Tony Valley asks, basically, do you guys have early readers or read your work early to give insight and feedback outside of family or editors?
No, never.
I have a few. That I not a huge number though. It's been, and I'm always on the fence about whether should I bring in more? Is it just fine the way it is? So yeah, a few.
I think the biggest problem, the reason I don't do it is
Yeah.
because the more voices that come in, the more confused I get. You know, I have to rely on the professionals. That's my editors. I have to rely on the person who knows me best. That's my wife. Also, my wife is better read than almost anybody I know. So that's a big plus. Well, okay. So that's really enough. I don't need to send Brent my work and say, what do you think? Because first of all, Brent's going to say, well, I love it. It's great. And then later he's going to say to his wife, oh man, what a piece of crap that is. I don't. No, it's just that
One time.
it doesn't accomplish the things I want it to. If Brent is using, and I know he is actually, I know how he works. I know if he's using a couple of readers whose opinions he values and who don't just say, oh, well, this chapter here is crap, you know, you should rewrite this with no further explanation. But instead, a knowing reader will say, I'm having trouble because, and then give you the explanation for what it's about. And that's what really counts.
Well, so I had some other writer, a friend of mine, and I can't remember, so I can't give credit, dang, said like what your beta readers can answer for you is not as much as they think. Generally, what they can answer for you is, this is where I got confused.
Yes.
And this is where I started skimming.
Yes.
Those are valuable.
Very good.
Oh, you didn't know what was going on? Okay. I wanted you to be confused, but were you confused in this way? You know, usually you don't want people to be confused anywhere. But if you did, you know, you can tease that out a little bit. But generally, it's like you were confused. You didn't know what was happening. That's valuable for me to know, because so much of what we do, Terry, is taking the knowledge that's in our heads and then transferring it over to other people's heads. It's like for me to plant a twist. It's like I need to guess what people are guessing from
Right.
what I told them. And,
Right.
and it's got to be exactly the right amount of information. And some readers are get everything, and it's uncanny. And you're like, how did you figure that out? Oh, good Lord. And other readers completely. But so it's nice to have a few. It's a little bit of diversity. But those are basically the two things. It's like, I got bored with this. This was just too long for me. Okay, this is the reader who doesn't like fight scenes. I'm not going to listen to them about that, because they always skim all the fight scenes. That's great. Some readers do that. Other readers, it's the best part of it. Oh, you know, too much dialogue. There are a few things that beta readers can really help you with, and I've had some really good ones. So it's like I'm holding on to those people. But in general, it's in general, beta readers can answer just those two questions for you, and that's valuable.
That's very succinct. I like that a lot.
Andrew Martin, we're past our hour, but since we're having such a good time here, we'll continue on if the authors are okay with that. Andrew Martin asks, how hard is it to find the line between describing the horror that a character has affected on someone without being too graphic? So how do you manage that without becoming so grimdark that none of your readers want to read you anymore, basically?
Well, I think that it's almost a personal author choice. And it varies a great deal depending on the limits that an author has within themselves for what they will tolerate and not tolerate. So for me, it means not as much as an awful lot of other writers. I don't like graphic violence described in detail. I think it's much more effective when it's a one-sentence description, much more powerful. If I'm digressing on how somebody is dissected piece by piece, I skip those parts. First of all, it's boring. And number two, it's shock value stuff. And I don't want to be writing about writing in that sort of vein. I want to make the impact as quickly, easily as possible in the most effective way that doesn't involve graphic detail, because then I'm verging on comic books. And without it being too disparaging about comic books, that's a visual medium, essentially, first and foremost. And I don't want that to show up. I want it to be a different kind of experience for the readers. I don't know if I'm being clear about that or not. I don't know. What do you think, Brent? Do you have a...
I think that, like, you have to be consistent is really the thing. It's like, what kind of story are you telling? Is this a story that's really violent, that's really visceral and has lots of blood and guts? Okay, have you introduced the reader to that early on so that they know, okay, this is the kind of world, this kind of stuff happens. When some of this grimdark stuff started to be a thing, I read a couple novels by first-time novelists, and it's like the first chapter would have a torture sequence, and then the rest of the novel was like pretty light and kind of bright, not non-violent. I mean, there was violence, but it was just very very much off screen, and I was like, what is this doing here? This chapter doesn't belong with this book. It's like, oh, grimdark is a thing, I got to make this gritty thing. And it's like, you don't have to be gritty to be serious. You don't have to be gritty to write great stuff. There are gritty stories. There are people who do that. I remember, I didn't read the book, so this is sort of terrible. I'm using a movie to talk about books, but you know, American Psycho, you watch the movie and you think that's the goriest friggin' thing ever. It's like, it almost always pans away. You know, like you don't ever see the violence. You see him lift the axe and the axe comes down and you see some blood hit him. And like, that's as gory as it gets. And it's tremendously effective. It's like gut turning. And it's like, well, you get into a book called American Psycho or a movie called American Psycho. It's like, you know what you're getting. You know there's going to be some of that. But artistically, it's like know when to pull the camera away. Because if it's just you know, spaghetti sauce after a while, if it's gore, it's like, let the reader do the work for you, and they will do it way worse than you could do. So I think being consistent with yourself, being consistent within your milieu, and letting the reader's imagination work for you, you can. Those are my guidelines.
I think that one of the most important lessons as writers that we learn is when to pull back.
Mhm.
When to let the audience or each member of that audience meet you halfway.
Mhm.
And I say this all the time. I never do too much in the way of description when I know that my reader will do a better job of it than I will. They don't need for me to spell these so much out that a lot of writers do. They only need to be taken thus far, and then they know the rest. And I just feel like that is a talent that you need to develop early in order to make your work appropriate. Also, I would add to this, Brent, that to a certain extent, you're defined by your readership. You know, you can't be getting too graphic when you know you've got 10-year-olds reading your work. And I've had young readers on my work for a very long time. So I have to be aware of the fact that they're there. And if they're going to be there, I can't suddenly launch into some bloodletting mayhem that they're going to read and be traumatized by, or at least be impacted by in a way that I don't want them to be.
Right.
So, you know, that seems, you know, it's like, I never really write graphic sex.
Mhm.
There are indications about people sleeping with people, but do I go into vivid detail about it? Heck no. Number one, it's embarrassing. Number two, I cringe inwardly at this. And number three, I don't want my readers to remember that scene and forget everything else in the book. So
Harry, you might be the best smut writer of all time, and you don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just like the Supreme Court when asked to describe pornography. I don't know. I just recognize it when I see it.
All right. I'll ask one more question here, and it was a good one, and I don't remember who it was from. Trying to find the name because I don't want to shortchange somebody, but basically, in essence, it was, you know, I know you guys are going to say that you're closeted, you don't leave your house, you know, all of that, but
I didn't say I was closeted.
yeah, let's say that.
That's a different connotation. Right?
That's a whole nother faith-based conversation.
That's another conversation.
But how much does your everyday life affect your writing that day or the next day? You know, like when 9/11 happened, right? Like there was a ripple effect that produced in people, not only just in people in general when they're walking around the street, but also like especially the arts and and how people dealt with that. And art became darker for a while. We saw some really dark movies come out around that time to kind of reflect that kind of really awful day. We're in the pandemic right now, so I guess my question is, and it was a question from somebody else, how much does your everyday life kind of affect what you're writing? And have you gone back and read something and went, wow, what was I thinking that day? And you've forgotten what that day was. It could have been the day that COVID started,
Go ahead, Brent. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, in some ways, I think you can't help your life affecting things. It's like I think artists are just sponges. It's like I go around and I was driving along a road a year ago, and I was like, wait, that sign has a name that popped up in one of my novels. like I didn't realize I took that off of there. Like I never realized I even looked at that sign, but I've probably driven by it 50 times, and I was like, okay, that just popped out of my subconscious. And I think some of that stuff just does. I don't like, I feel like it's too obvious of ground to go, okay, my next book is gonna be about a pandemic. It's like, oh, come on. Like one, somebody else is gonna write it faster than I could. Two, they probably write it better than I could. And I don't want to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. I'm just more interested in so I try to have other influences in my head. It's like, okay, I'm reading some obscure novel or I'm reading some obscure history about the Crusades or something, and it's like that, oh, that rocks my world, or something from Japanese history, and I'm like, how did that happen? How did they put up with that? Or reading about the the harem system in the Ottoman Empire, and being like, that, I mean, it wasn't just about sex, it was about the court intrigues are way more interesting. And it's like, how did that seems so unstable. How did that possibly last for 200 years? And so like, I've got different stuff coming into my brain so that I'm not just reacting to all the same things that everybody else is reacting to, and then getting the same kind of art that everybody else is making. So I hope to keep things fresh by putting not just the normal daily life into my books.
I expect that I'm impacted by a lot of stuff. I'm just that guy. I'm very emotional, and if I see a movie that impacts me emotionally, I think about it for days. A piece of music, it doesn't take much, but I've learned how to compartmentalize stuff like that. So, and I'm pretty good at it. So, if I have a really bad day, it goes over there. I continue on. For me, the writing process is like I'm always in that space that nothing else touches.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm in that space, that's what I'm focusing on. It is not 100% perfect, but it's pretty good. And something like the pandemic is the least of my problems. I'd be much more impacted by the loss of a friend or something like that that's more personal. The pandemic is impersonal. It affects everybody. Nothing I can do about it except what I can do about for myself for the most part, and not do anything to help spread it and to protect myself and my family and that sort of thing. That's pretty easy stuff. But the other things, the things that affect you emotionally, are the things I sometimes have to step back from, or let a day or so pass before I move on to something else. And then when that comes back, again, if I hear certain songs, I cry every time I hear them. And I just want to say, what's wrong with me? Why am I doing that? I blame church. That's where it first started. I swear to God, some of those hymns were so emotionally impressive on me that even back then I was practically reduced to tears when they came on. And it's such powerful music. I've always understood about the power of music, I think, better than anything else. But I think you basically learn to compartmentalize, because there's too many things that can come in and wreck your life if you let them do that. And if you forget that everybody else who works goes back to work. and maybe they're thinking about it and it's there in the back of their minds, but they're still concentrating on what they're doing. And the writers have to do the same thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, man, the pandemic, like for a while I was like, this isn't even affecting me. And I'm like, well, actually, yes, it is. But mostly I'm getting my work done. And like it is, it's that thing. It's like, man, if I let everything that upsets me in the world like make me stop writing, like I would never write anything ever, because there's always upsetting in this world. There's always stuff that's wrong. It's like, oh, this election comes up and you're mad about the election, and then there's this thing, and then there's this other thing, and then there's something in your personal life, and it's like, man, like there's something where writing can become a refuge. It's like, you know what, for this amount of time, for these hours at the desk, I'm in this world and I get to choose some things, and that stuff I'll pick it back up, because I'm a responsible human being. I try to be a responsible dad. I've got all those burdens, but they're gonna have to wait for a couple hours. Like here I am, I'm doing my job, and I've got to make this the best I can for my readers, and meet them here, take them out of their world for a few hours. So I think writers who are prolific, like Terry, much less so me, it's like we figured some of those things out. It's like, okay, this is what you have to do despite life happening all the time. You grab the stuff out of life that works to make your fiction better. You keep those things, you draw on them when it's ready. It's in the box, it all goes in. And I'm a really emotional guy too, Terry. I'll be moved to tears by movies and all that. It's just like, okay, that's part of the box, that's part of who I am, that's part of my instrument. That's okay, I'm not embarrassed about it, and then I'm going to use that in my work. But like in today's scene, that might not belong. So like maybe every once in a while you got to give yourself a day where you can't write, but like you can't do it every day. So
I think one of the things you'll learn after a while is you have to permit yourself that it's okay to take a day off. It's okay if you don't write today. I know we have certain writers, Stephen King being among them, who have said they write every single day, every day. I don't know what their spouses think about this, but it'd be interesting to take a survey. But every so often, my family says, we need to do something with you, whoever you are. I think your dad or whatever. And I think you have to be aware of that. And Sean is right in the middle of this, so he knows it. And so are you, for that matter. So you give yourself permission to take time off. And the same way you do it for your family, you do it for yourself if you're in a place where this just doesn't seem to be a day where you want to do it. The world will not end if you do not write today, no matter how much anybody suggests it might. It will not. And so you have to be aware of that.
Since Mother's Day was yesterday, and Eric Peters asks a good question here. He asks, I know both of you have incredible wives. Can you talk more about how well they support you? And then that will be the last question. I'll leave it there, and give you free reign to talk about, the women in your life.
Well, I will say this, that if Judine were to pass on or leave me for any reason at all, I would probably go hang around Christy. Because she is an incredibly supportive and caring person. And like Brent and I are very similar. We both require that, I'm pretty sure. And I don't mean that in a disparative way. I mean, because we are not fully functional without that connection. And I say all the time that the day I met Judine was the day my whole life turned around. Even though I was, 3 books into my career and I had all these bestsellers and all these other things, I was so unhappy. And when I met her, it just, bang, just changed my life like that. And it's like you meet your other half, that soulmate you knew was out there. And I think that's why ultimately you're supposed to meet and marry and have children and form a partnership, as those features are there. So and more specifically, and I don't know if this is true for you, Brent, but Judine's my first reader. I value her opinion tremendously for the reasons I've already mentioned earlier. But she's very astute and she's good at answering those 2 questions that you mentioned earlier about what works and my confusion. I'm not sure what you're saying here. You've used the same word 15 times in the last 2 pages. Perhaps you should change a few of those. Things like that that are practical and immediately understandable. Those things make a huge amount of difference. And while we're doing this for 6 or 8 hours a day, let's say, who's doing the rest of the work in your life? Oh wait, who's going to do my washing? Who's going to do the house cleaning? Who's going to, if you have children, who's going to be looking after the children if we don't have them shipped off to school at the moment, that sort of thing. All those practical aspects of your life, somebody has to do them unless you're also planning on doing them. This is for us, this is a full-time job, and we need that help. We really do. And we need that emotional support. I mean, you can just go on and on. You talk about it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that was one of the awesome things, Terry, what was meeting you and meeting Judine. I mean, more meeting Judine was awesome, but meeting you was nice too. What was seeing your partnership, and it was just like, oh, Judine, oh my gosh, she is sharp. She is smart and she knows what's going on and she knows everything about the business. And that you guys traveled together was like, oh, you can do that, or
do that. Yeah.
Like we're not such weirdos because Christy travels with me, and it's like, man, that lets me and was that easy and financially and whatnot? Like, no, that was a challenge at first to figure out how to do that. But it was just like, you know what, I go and I'm on for a signing, and I'm an introvert by nature. I like small groups of people, love chatting with you guys here. But like, it's like, put me in front of 100 people and it's like, man, I got to be on the ball, and like, then I got to shake hands with 100 people. We won't be doing that anymore, but and trying to say hi and like trying to make it a special thing for each single person. It's like, afterwards I'm done, I can't even find the hotel. Like I love it and it's awesome meeting fans, but like the energy just goes out of me. So that Christy is able to travel with me, and she goes, here's what we need to do next, here's how long we have before the next thing. And she also Christy meets me in some of the artistic stuff. I'll sit there and I'll talk with her about characters, and I'm like, I can't find the center of this woman. Like I can't figure out what makes her tick. And like, I wanted for her to do this thing in the next scene, like she needs to do that, but like, I don't think she would do it. And I'm trying to figure her out. And Christy will just ask me questions, and she doesn't usually give me positive, like, you should do this. I don't take you should do this from anybody very well. Right. It's just how my brain works. But she'll just like ask me questions. Well, what's she like? Is she the kind of person who might do this, or the kind of person who might do this? And I'm like, oh, hold on, I got it now.
Yeah, I know that.
It's like, she and my agent are the only people who can kind of do some of that for me, and Christy more with the finding the center of characters in just brilliant ways. So I can be like, I can tell when things are going off the rails, and then I talk with her, and it just it's a tremendous help to me. So yes, it's like running the business. Like, there is a whole business side to all this stuff, and there's spreadsheets, and there's stuff that I it's like, maybe I could do it, but I would do it badly, and I would hate my life every second I had to do it. And it's like, oh, who's going to talk with the health insurance people? It's like, oh God, I can't handle this. And so there's just a ton of stuff that Christy steps in and she does. And we feel very fortunate that she's able to do that, and that she's got the personality to do it is just a total gift. So it's our partnership is very much a partnership. It's not Brent is doing the important thing and Christy.
Right. It can't be that way.
It's like, no, we're partners. These are our books. I write them. so
I think about being on tour with Judine on numerous occasions over the years, and she says 3 words, and she says them all the time: drink more water.
Right.
As I'm dehydrating myself by yakking on.
That's right. Gives you the.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I have been talking for a long time.
Sometimes does Christy do this? when if there happens to be a big line at a thing, she will come forward. She says, "There's 400 people back there. Hurry up."
I know
Your words.
You said 400 to me for reasons. But Christy
I
has,
said, puffery, but
Christy has certainly said,
move it along, move it along.
yeah, move it along. They're around the corner. Oh, they are. Oh, I thought we just had these, 10 people.
All right, most of them standing here, the rest are trapped outside in the rain. And
Yeah,
right behind-
it's like when you're signing, you can only see like the first 10 people, and like sometimes like you get there and there's only 20 people, and you think there's only 20 people, but like a bunch more people have come in, and you're like, I got a half an hour to talk to these people, and otherwise I'm just gonna leave.
we can go on like this forever. I remember being at a signing one time when I was in a room and all these people were seated there, and there was, maybe 30 people. It seemed like a reasonable amount of people. And I said, well, this doesn't look too bad, Judy. So there's a larger room over there that's completely packed with people standing. And I think, these are the kinds of things you need to know about, because then you can, don't talk so much, cut it short and get on with it. So these people don't stand there forever because they're doing you a favor just coming down.
Absolutely.
So don't treat them like they're cattle. Anyway, we can go. That's another talk for another day, right?
That's a new talk.
I think we do need to set up another talk with you guys at some point in the future, because
we should talk about touring. That would be fun.
This has been very entertaining, and you guys should think about touring together when things come normal, because I know you guys would get along great.
That would be great.
I will say just a couple things here. Terry has a new book out. It's called Small Magic. It's short stories from all of his series, plus a couple little extra things. So I'll just throw that out. And Child of Light comes out in October. Brent is currently working on something new, standalone-ish or not?
One or the other.
Wait and see.
I do have something I was supposed to remember to say.
I was just going to say it too, I bet.
Sure. Okay. The Way of Shadows is a Kindle daily deal today, which we did not organize.
Ooh.
But happened very nicely. So there should be a link somewhere.
Yeah,
So,
The Way of Shadows is available right now for $2.99, I believe, as an ebook, and I bet it's just today. So you better go out there and get it if you haven't.
Right.
Yet. So, no, thank you both for the
Thanks so much for having
wonderful
me.
time.
Mhm.
I'll give you guys closing comments.
I'll say, I would like you to have the last word.
Okay.
I will just say I'm very appreciative to have Brent's friendship, his professional expertise at beck and call, although I would not impinge upon it except in extraordinary circumstances. And to have had him on this show today, because, we've been doing these for, I don't know, about 6 months now, maybe longer, during this pandemic, and something we've never done before. I'm kind of a recluse, so I don't do a lot of this, but since I'm not touring anymore, I'm forced to do something, so I don't get lost in the crowds. So Brent, I wanted to do this for a while. We've talked about this for a while. I was reminded again when we were at Realm Makers how much fun it is to converse with you about, and Christy too, really. Maybe we should do a wives and husbands show. We used to do panels with that sort of thing in the old days, and those were just a lot of fun because really the wives are not at all ashamed to tell away anything about you that they have found to be irritating.
All right. Let's put that
as long as it's not me, it's okay. Anyway, it's been great, Brent, and thank you so much for spending time today.
Yeah, I just have to say thank you for having me. It's been, I've missed you. I mean, it's good. It's good. And Sean, always a pleasure. And you have been doing good to and for writers like me for a long time, Terry. I really appreciate you. You were one of the first people who gave me a blurb. A lot of people told me that they tried out The Way of Shadows because of your blurb, and that is very kind of you. I'm sure you get a lot of books on your desk, and for you to take the time for a totally unknown writer was huge and really important for me. Obviously, nobody knew my books. I wasn't in hardcover. I was just plopped out there. And it's like, at least, I have a thing from Terry Brooks. So people gave me a shot, and I know that you spend your time doing that, not just for me, but for other new writers, and bless you for doing that. That's great work. You're very, very generous with your time. So, and your attention. So thank you. And thanks for having me today.
I expect to get this back as I slip into obscurity and Brent's star rises, and then I'll call him up. And once I remind him who I am, then he'll do the same for me.
And on that note, thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, Sean.
Read something good, be safe. Love you all. Thank you.